accountability chart, one thing you always want to be looking at is, does the organizational chart or the accountability chart accidentally mirror the family tree? And what I mean by that is what people will often do in family businesses is say, oh, well, mom and dad are getting ready to retire, so we're going to make them the visionary, or we'll make them the president, or we'll make them whatever that seat is at the top of the organizational chart or the accountability chart. And that might have nothing to do with actually how they want to spend their time. And then what family businesses accidentally will do is say, well, we need the next president, or we need the next visionary, or we need the next integrator. We'll put the oldest kid in there, or we'll put the oldest son in there, or we'll put the oldest kid who went to business school in there. And that might have nothing to do with their interest or ability to run the business. Or what family businesses will accidentally do is say, okay, thanks for letting us know, Michael. They'll accidentally say, we have our next generation. They need to run ops, and then they need to be the integrator. And then after that, they're allowed to be a visionary. And unfortunately, what that does, it's almost like saying in a band, first you have to be the drummer, and then you can be the lead guitarist, and then you're allowed to be the vocalist. But if you're really good at singing, that does not necessarily mean you're great at the drums. And it might have nothing to do with your ability to play the guitar. And while it makes sense logically in a lot of people's brains, it really doesn't make sense, because you want a person in a family business to be in the role that they're uniquely skilled to do. And that probably has nothing to do with their birth order, or whether they're close to retirement, or if they're a man, or if they're a woman, or if they're 30, or if they. So that's the number one thing. Take a look at your org chart or your accountability chart. And if it looks remarkably close to your family tree, there's probably a mistake being made there. You're probably accidentally putting someone in a seat based on their role in the family, more so than the importance of their role in the business. My one other way to think about this is what I've seen in a lot of family businesses is they think, for good reason, I don't trust anybody other than my fill in the blank: child, spouse, cousin, brother, to run the family business. And then they sort of force or shoehorn a person into a role that they're not really right for. And what I like to say is this: if there are two parents in a family, what might be true is that they don't trust anyone to babysit their child or be alone with their child, like really in the end, other than their spouse, right? The kid's other parent. But the only way for two people who have a kid or kids to ever spend time alone is to get a babysitter. And so you have to go with someone who might not be that spouse to be with your children. And in this situation, it's important to separate. Is it my own desire or my need or my own idea of who would be the right person to run this family business? Am I letting my ideas get in the way of my business to actually thrive? And I have no idea if there's research, but I'm going to say I think my kids benefited from having people like their aunts babysit them, because what happened when their aunts babysit them, they got to eat Twinkies and they got to stay up late and they got to do a whole bunch of stuff they would never have gotten to do if I was the one there with them. So I don't know, research might suggest that's bad. I mean, we know Twinkies are bad, but I think you get what I'm saying there. So that's my piece there. Please take a look. If the family business org chart or accountability chart and the family tree look a lot alike, you're probably accidentally doing things inside of the business that really aren't serving the business. And then here's my little bonus add-on to that. When you ask someone, require someone, force someone to be in a role that they're not uniquely skilled at. For example, if you say to someone, you're our only kid, now you have to run the business, or you're the oldest, or you're the tallest, or whatever is the thing that's defining what makes you run the business. What will happen often to people, if they're not actually uniquely skilled at being that person who's running the business, that person at the top of the accountability chart or the top of the organizational chart, that human actually typically suffers quite a bit in the position. They suffer. They end up being in a situation where they do not feel confident. They don't feel capable. They second guess the heck out of themselves. They're not in a role that they're uniquely skilled to be in. So for example, if someone's a really good vocalist, but you tell them they have to be a drummer first, you have to be the drummer before you can be the lead vocalist. They're going to suffer in the role of the drummer. They're going to suffer really hard because they're not uniquely skilled at that. So be careful about forcing or asking somebody to do something they're not uniquely skilled at. And of course, a little caveat in that is a person's skills and abilities will grow and change over time. So what a person's uniquely skilled to do at the age of 20 is likely very different than at 28 or at 35 or at 42. So a person might someday at the age of 42 be a really great president or integrator or visionary of a company, but at the age of 25, they might be absolutely terrible at it, or vice versa. EOS gives us the language of get it, want it, capacity. Does the person get the job? Does it just make sense to them? That's get it. Do they want it? That will absolutely change over time. And that one's really clear. Do they want the job? Do they not want the job? A person might not get the job, but they do want the job. That'll happen. Or they totally get the job, but they do not want the job. I happen to be really good at managing and keeping young children engaged for long periods of time. I do not want that job right now. I am not interested in that job. I'm not interested in being as sticky as you have to be, physically sticky. I'm not interested in the paycheck for that kind of a job or the volume, none of that. But I'm really good at it. I totally get it, don't want it. And then the third thing is capacity. The intellectual, physical, emotional ability to do the job. And that might change as well over time. So a person's capacity to do a job at the age of 24 is going to be very different than their capacity to do a job at 42. And then, of course, again, very different at 44, at 64, at 84, at 104. Okay, that was my tidbit here.